Good morning. Can you hear me now? Testing. Is this thing on? Hi, guys. Welcome to the Wake Up America Show. I'm Austin Peterson. It's time to rise in freedom. Well, this week is already blowing up with SCOTUS decisions and more political grift. Here I am, as always. I'm going to walk you through the news this morning with, I think, more nuance than you'll find on any other platform. We're going to start with a big one that comes a little close to home. The Daughters of the American Revolution recently rejected a ban on transgender women in their organization. They rejected the ban. Oh, you can hear me now? Yeah. Guys, just a little bit behind this. Let me just break the fourth wall for a moment here. I didn't know if it was going to work. Okay. I just hoped it was. I tested it yesterday. It worked, but then it started giving me some weird, wonky technical stuff like 2 minutes before the show started. It was starting to act up, and I was like, oh my God. So I was literally crapping my pants just like 2 minutes ago, just like, please. So you can't hear me. Okay. All right. So what this story is that anyone who believes that they are a woman can enter the Daughters of the American Revolution. Now, I won't say anyone because, like myself, the big requirement, of course, is having proven that you are a descendant of an American Revolutionary War patriot. So can you guys, testes, 1, 2, 3, exactly. Can you guys sense the irony there? Imagine if you were a man pretending to be a woman and you were a descendant of a patriot. Do you think that your ancestors agree that you should be a they, them daughter of the Revolutionary War? I don't think you'd appreciate what they had to say. Then we'll take a short ride to the Supreme Court of the United States, where they just ruled 6-3 against Trump's remedy to the immigration problem. Trump proposed that any future newborn children of illegals and temporary visa holders should not obtain immediate citizenship to the United States. Starting to feel like we're still being ruled by the monarch overseas. So has this country learned nothing from our falling allies? Once we get to the second hour, guys, we're going to have Missouri's own Rick Brattin. He will join us to give his take on the Supreme Court birthright ruling. And then after that, we're going to bring in Nick Cooper to talk about the next steps for the Liberty Movement, as well as an analysis of the MAGA movement. So if you are as intellectually gifted as I think you are, then you're going to want to stick around. The second hour is going to be great. So, and not only should you stick around, you should consider heading to the For Liberty shop, especially because we've got so much new merch, and especially because it's the kind of stuff that I don't know. Sometimes I think certain products are the kind of things that someone's going to like. You tell me if I'm right about this one. Is this Richard Nixon's the One retro ringer tee? Is this the kind of thing you can see Joni Rankin wearing? Because this to me is the kind of thing that would look good on Joni Rankin. We got the nice ringer tees, 1970s style. Nixon's the One ringer tee, brand new, hot off the presses. Stephanie designed that one. The Nixon's the One retro ringer tee, brand new, hot topic in the shop. If you guys are ready to relive the Nixon years, then head over to forlibertyshop.com during the show. Get yourself a Nixon's the One retro ringer tee. Remember, guys, that price includes shipping, and if you buy 2 of anything in the store and you use the code BUY2GET15, then you save 15%. This one I'm trying to get a little heat, little action on. Don't California my Missouri. You want to hear a story? So I use AI to make these images, obviously. But I tried yesterday to get them to give me like a fat kid with a mullet. And ChatGPT, it would not create. It said that it was rude. It was like it was that I was like attacking because I was like, okay, just chubby kid. And then I was like, husky kid. They would not make a fat kid. I wanted a fat kid at the county fair with a corn dog from the 80s holding a Game Boy, with like, freckles and all that stuff. And so I was like, basically, so you won't let me make a fat kid. So that means you're fat phobic. Okay. So what if I'm for fat acceptance? Does that mean you won't make plus size models? I even tried. I said, make the kid plus size. And they said they wouldn't do it. So go, ChatGPT. Only beautiful people are allowed to be made on AI art. So don't California my Missouri shirts, available at forlibertyshop.com. And then this one, another sleeper that we haven't really advertised much yet. The Penguin Flight Was Never an Option tee. Morning, friends. Eric Wilson Live's headed for Ohio for a 4th of July Bluegrass Festival. Damn, that was like fun, man. That is exactly the kind of thing I would want to do. So let's unlock that bonus content, guys. Celebrate the 4th of July the right way with some capitalism and unlock the bonus content. If we raise $100, you'll get to see our mini documentary. 150 is the Great Grift Off. You know how the rules work. Let's get it on. Let's get it on. All right, here we go. So in 1890, a group of the most patriotic, badass women marched up to the doors of the Sons of the American Revolution, that institution that I joined last year and talk about sometimes. These women, they walked up to the doors of the Sons and they asked to be let in to the chambers as descendants of American Revolutionary War patriots. 1890. The Sons, they waited for a moment, and then they slammed the door in the women's faces and they laughed. Good morning, CHEF. Good morning. The daughters didn't walk away, though, of course. They weren't going to leave it good enough alone. They didn't walk away with their head hung low. Their patriotic pride wasn't diminished. So they erected their own building and they drafted their own organization. This organization became the Daughters of the American Revolution, and it's actually eclipsed the Sons of the American Revolution in terms of its influence. The Daughters of the American Revolution. Now, you might say, oh, this is a countercultural movement, right? No, it was actually an act of real women pulling up their bootstraps and doing the real work for themselves. 136 years later, the same organization now allows mutilated men to come crawling into their corridors. So the idea of the DAR still stands strong, but the culture of the Daughters is skewed. On June 26th of this year, the Daughters of the American Revolution, they voted to reject a ban on allowing transgender women into their organization. So the question now becomes, has the left infected this glorious patriotic institution with the normalization of mentally ill Americans? So rules don't seem to apply to certain Americans anymore. You can just decide where you belong according to your feelings, because that's what truth is now these days. Your feelings over facts. Now, I saw a pretty good interview, or I guess you might say, a pretty good debate on Michael Knowles' show.
There's something actually that as
let's see, where did it go?
Logical legacy that went back to the revolution. Again, I would be very curious to see how many people in the DAR are opposed to this, because it has a diverse membership. Carol Burnett, as I said, Bo Derek, Tammy Duckworth, Rosalind Carter, some of the more notable ones who have a very progressive perspective on a lot of these issues. But again, why isn't it the women inside that are talking about this? Why does it have to be you on the outside speaking on behalf of this large organization of women with a diverse set of ideas?
Because the leadership told them they can't speak to anyone about it.
So
that's why that to me.
So
there was multiple members who did it. You mentioned that a few years ago the DAR didn't let black women in. It was more than a few years ago. The DAR has accepted black members for quite a long time, as America's relationship with race has developed. And even to mention certain high-profile left-wing celebrities who could be members of DAR, I do think it's a little misleading. You sometimes see this with another American genealogical society, the Mayflower Society. You notice I have Mayflower cigars here. That's a group that I'm a member of, too. And there are all sorts of people who can claim membership in the group, or perhaps whose families have been involved, but they are not actively involved. So, I think also people who can claim direct descent from the American Revolution patriots is a huge number of people. But those who are actively involved in preserving this legacy, it's a much smaller group of people. And I can speak with experience. These are groups that tend be a little bit more conservative. And when we're talking about an issue like transgenderism, by the way, we're talking about an issue that was not really supported by anyone even 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
The very notion of
brand new problem here. Yeah. So the vote that the daughters undertook was 1481 to 1984 against defining woman as born female. And that is the outcome that the leadership wanted, because they did not win a vote for trans inclusion. They won a vote to keep the word woman undefined. So an undefined word, of course, is not neutral. This is just a blank space for the lawyers and the activists that they get to fill in later, of course, and they know this. Now, the Daughters was founded in 1890, like I had said, for one reason. The men wouldn't let the women in, so the women built their own house. 190,000 members, 3,000 chapters. Susan B. Anthony carried a card, Eleanor Roosevelt, Carol Burnett. The entire point of this organization was that a woman is a real and specific thing worth honoring. And in 2026, its own leadership decided that the one idea that this organization was founded for was too dangerous to put into writing. Now, the resolution that was proposed was not like, it wasn't a sloppy culture war slogan. It wasn't like Trumpism was trying to take over the Daughters of the Revolution. It was defined as a woman as a biological female at conception. So naturally occurring X chromosomes, no Y, certified female on the original birth certificate. So this is what a society of daughters was told was too extreme for its own rule book. Basically, if you had a biological definition that we all work from scientifically, that was not going to be allowed to be used to define what a woman was for the daughters. But here's the number that exposed this whole charade, because there was an estimated 5 biological males who identify as women who have joined DAR chapters. 5, only 5 trans members are what caused this whole fuss. And that drove thousands of actual women to tear up their memberships and walk out. Leadership looked at 5 men and thousands of departing women, and they picked the 5. The word that they use to justify this has nothing to do with values. It's liability, of course. So leadership told members that defining woman as natural-born female would violate the DC human rights law and threaten the group's nonprofit status and their property tax exemption. Nobody sued them. No judge ordered anything. They just surrendered to a hypothetical tax bill because they were threatened that they might one day potentially lose their nonprofit status. Now, the memo that sparked all of this fear on this in the Daughters of the American Revolution. Good morning, if you guys are just joining us. This was written by Samuel Bagenstos, the former general counsel at Biden's Department of Health and Human Services. This is the same shop that spent 4 years pushing gender medicine on kids. This person wrote the paper arguing that a patriotic women's society could get nailed, theoretically, hadn't happened yet, under DC civil rights law for saying that a woman is a woman. So a Biden lawyer's homework became the leash that they attached to the neck of the daughters. Now, of course, the leash is fake, and the women who were fighting this knew it. And of course, the problem isn't just the 5 men that tried to get in the institution, the thousands of women who tore up their membership cards and walked away rather than stay and fight. Probably they could have easily won this vote if the women had stayed to fight instead of leaving as soon as there was a problem. But Laura McDonald, who founded Daughters Advocating for Restoration, points out that trans status is protected in DC for public accommodations and employers, not for private members associations. A society that you have to prove a revolutionary bloodline to enter, that's the most private association in America. So the memo that came in scared them with a law that does not even apply to this organization. So they didn't have to do this in the first place. So the threat was fake the entire time. Now listen to this. This is interesting how the vote on this one got engineered. McDonald says it was supposed to be a dedicated special meeting on October 11th. Now, set aside for this one question so members could focus on it. Instead, what leadership did was that they buried it in the leadership. They buried it in the general agenda of the annual Congress. So the bylaws say that the President General must call that special meeting when 30 chapters in 10 states demand it. The restoration side says the debt is still owed and they're coming back in October to collect. Now, up the street, this morning in West Virginia versus BPJ and Little versus Heacock, the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that the states may keep girls and women's sports for biological females under Title IX and the Equal Protection Clause. So Justice Kavanaugh wrote this one. This was one of the two Supreme Court justices. Good morning, John Rail. Nice to see you. It upheld Idaho, West Virginia, and 27 more states. So the word is may. The court didn't impose a single thing on the country. What it does is that the Supreme Court decision about transgender females in sports, or transgender males in sports, transgender sports, excuse me, that they're not compelling trans to be out of sports, but that the states can make their own rules on this one. So it gave the question back to the states, which is, of course, the one outcome that the left can't stand because the people keep giving the wrong answer. But the dissent in this one is the tell. Justice Sotomayor with Kagan and Jackson, they split from the majority of the Constitution, but they agreed with it on Title IX. So interesting. Even the three liberal justices could bring themselves to say federal laws forces biological males onto girls' teams. So Justice Thomas wrote separately that a male with gender dysphoria is not a girl no matter what he believes. And of course, this lands 1 year after the same 6-3 court upheld protecting kids from gender medicine in Scarametti. So the court keeps walking to the exact line that the daughter's bosses ran away from. So here are some questions for the audience. Good morning, Murtek. Thank you for the raid. A women's society founded because men shut women out now refuses to say what a woman is. So who actually benefits when the word woman is stripped of any meaning? And why are they always the ones pushing for it? Does anybody benefit from this? Who benefits? Cui bono? Next question. Only 5 biological males joined the daughters. Thousands of women walked out. Leadership called that inclusion. So who got included and who got shown the exit? Next question for the audience there. A former Biden HHS lawyer writes a memo and a 136-year-old patriotic society rolls over. So when did Washington bureaucrats' paperwork start outranking the votes of 190,000 patriotic dues-paying American citizens? Your thoughts? The same movement that swears a woman cannot be defined just lost 6-3 at the highest court in the land. So if a sex is really just a feeling, why couldn't one liberal justice even argue that Title IX forces it? Because it does. Title IX forces a definition of biological sex. Otherwise, what is the point of Title IX? So the court handed this question back to the people. The daughters took it away from theirs and handed it to lawyers. So which one looks like freedom and which one looks like being managed? Good morning, Reveal of Liberty. Welcome to the Wake Up America show, everyone. Thank you for joining us here on the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. We're glad and thankful to have you here. A couple of house cleaning tips, guys. Just FYI, today is the 1st of July, only 3 days away from America's 250th birthday. Any of the purchases that you make at the Griff Shop, just FYI, as you should well understand by this point, will not make it by the 4th of July. However, wearing it on the 5th or the 6th is still a statement. So don't be shy. Continue to head over to forlibertyshop.com and we'll keep rolling out all the awesome merch. Also, just FYI, next week, Stephanie and I, we're going to be out of office. We are leaving for Las Vegas the 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. So all next week, we're going to be at Freedom Fest. So keep an eye on social media. You're going to get to see some of the content that we'll be producing while we're there. I'm going to be on a panel. And Stephanie reminds us, unless you buy a keychain, because we ship those from our house. Thank you, Stephanie, for the reminder. So, yeah, we're going to be out next week. We will be here Monday and Tuesday, so we'll have a couple more shows next week. But when everybody wants to know where's Austin? The 8th, 9th, and 10th, we're going to be out for Freedom Fest, and then we'll be back Monday, the 13th. So just an FYI, no Wake Up America show next Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. And there'll be no Culturama on Thursday because Daniela Pensac's going to be with us in Las Vegas. And this is actually going to be the first time that Daniela and I have ever met in person. So yeah, Viva Las Vegas. Thank you, Byron. During the live show this morning, you can unlock bonus content if you make a purchase at forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4, libertyshop.com. The 250th anniversary collection was a huge hit for us this year. Thank you to everyone who made purchases. But we are starting to roll out things for the after holiday push, and we've got some brand new merch Stephanie's been designing. The Nixon's the One rare tee. Richard Nixon enjoying a little bit of a renaissance these days. Head on over to libertyshop.com and check out the Nixon's the One ringer tee and the Don't California My Missouri t-shirt. I wanted to make an AI picture of a fat kid wearing it just because I thought it'd be funny, but for some reason AI wouldn't let me. Don't California My Missouri tees, all available at forlibertyshop.com. I'm going to take a quick little break. When we come back, Birthright Citizenship. Did the court make the wrong decision? I'll leave that to you and get my take when we come back on the Wake Up America show and the 4 Liberty Network. Tis the year of our Lord, 1801. President Trump Jefferson casts his gaze o'er the sovereign Potomac and beholds a most wretched spectacle upon the waters. From the cursed shores of Tripoli and the welfare coffers of distant Minnesota comes the brazen Captain Ilhan Omar, commanding her fleet of Barbary pirates. She demands her ransom, billions in reparations. Yet one instrument of fortitude suffices, a steaming chalice of Jeffersonian Java, bold and unapologetic from For Liberty Shop. No more tribute to rogues, he thunders, and dispatches the Navy and Marines to smash Omar's fleet asunder. Trump Jefferson stands triumphant as Omar's plunder meets the end it deserved back in Minnesota. Jeffersonian Java, the coffee that gives true Americans the courage to refuse tribute and rebuke fraud. Procure yours at forlibertyshop.com and make America caffeinated again.
Hark! I've discovered a brew so bold, 'twill ignite the spirit of liberty. This is not merely coffee, 'tis the very essence of American boldness. Give me coffee, or give me death. Go to For Liberty Shop to procure yours now.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than
well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian.
It always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
And what is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
The left in America tells us not to have kids to save the planet, but in Cuba, they stopped having kids because the state destroyed the earth.
Collectivism doesn't create justice. It creates shortages, corruption, and power for the few. I've not just seen it, I've lived it. My family escaped it. Now, the same failed ideas are being sold to a new generation. I'm here to expose the lie and defend liberty. From Cuba to Argentina to the United States, the freedom movement is rising. Cafecito Libre is the exile voice of economic truth. Cafecito Libre, premiering March 3rd as part of the For Liberty Network, only on Rumble.
Should you have a system where people can come to this country, even if they're well-to-do, get on Medicaid and give birth to a baby and then go back? The answer is no. And we know that Medicaid laws are being used and abused to do just this in the state of California. I'd like to see that stopped. About 13% of the California prison population, costing close to $300 million a year, are illegal aliens. I've had judges in Los Angeles and Orange County tell me 1/2 of their criminal dockets are illegal aliens. Presently, a convicted illegal alien has...
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Good to see you guys today. Thanks for joining the show. So let's start off this segment off with a question. Should be pretty easy. Who would you rather have your neighbor? A, John Smith. He's got a wife, 2 kids, nice clean home. You make conversation with him every now and then while grabbing the mail. Or B, Jafar Muhammad. He's got 8 children and 3 wives in a cramped home with a speaker blaring the Prophet Muhammad's teachings every night. Now, for most Americans, I think the answer is pretty simple. But for the Supreme Court, they believe that Jafar and his jihadist friends have the constitutional right to invade your neighborhood, breed like a feral rabbit, and basically take over, and they have as much rights to be there as you do. Yesterday, the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 to strike down Trump's Birthright Citizenship order that declared that future children born in the United States wouldn't be granted immediate citizenship if their parents were living here illegally or if they were just on temporary visas. Now, just when the Supreme Court was on a really nice hit streak, they stared down strike three on this at bat. So the vote was 6-3 against the president, and the math, of course, is very important on this one, so take a listen. Roberts wrote the opinion on constitutional grounds, joined by Barrett and the three liberals, with a sixth justice agreeing Trump loses, but on narrower statutory grounds. So the executive order number 14160 never took effect anywhere. Lower courts froze it the moment that it was signed, and they leaned on an 1898 decision called Wong Kim Ark. So this wasn't a surprise ambush. This was the legal establishment in this country, including its conservative wing, closing ranks. Thomas wrote the dissent, of course, that is going to matter for years. Clarence Thomas, his argument is historical, and it was pretty blunt. The 14th Amendment was ratified in 1868 with one pervading purpose: securing citizenship for freed slaves in the wake of the Civil War. He says that the majority took that amendment and repurposed it to protect its own preferred rights, outcomes that the Reconstruction Congress never voted for, and that the text of the 14th Amendment cannot carry. Now, Gorsuch, libertarian, blessed may he be, he signed on to the dissent and then wrote separately of his own.
This is absolutely a deep knife wound in the heart of the American Republic. Look, Jesse, I can step tomorrow onto the deck of a 747. It does not mean that I am the pilot of that plane and I'm qualified to fly it. Just physically being on U.S. soil does not make you a citizen or qualified to carry on or capable of executing the inheritance of this country. We have people from all over the world, from third world nations, nations that on their own would have never invented the wheel, let alone modern technology, let alone medicine, let alone air travel. And they can just come into the country, have a baby at a hospital, paid for by you and me, and then that baby's automatically a citizen. That baby can sit on a jury when he turns 18 and sit in judgment of you, and sit in judgment of me, and sit in judgment of our loved ones, can decide who our mayors are, our governors are, our presidents are. Citizenship means nothing if it is open to everyone. The idea that you can have a cruise ship filled with foreigners and they just dock at a port for an hour and someone has a baby, Jesse, the baby's an American citizen. They can vote in every election for the rest of their lives. They can be living in a foreign country and cashing welfare checks.
You can tell Jesse Waters is really loving that. So St. Selma says, so Austin, how do we fight this? It will be the end of the Republic. Well, the first thing that you have to do is don't black pill, is to not freak out, is to not assume that it's all over. It's not over. One of the interesting things that Justice Kavanaugh put into his brief on this is that he opened the door for the legislature to write a law to fix this. So Kavanaugh, in his concurrence, essentially stated that the reason why this is going forward, the reason why the Supreme Court made this decision, other than the liberal Supreme Court justices being what they are, that the reason that this was going to come down the way that it came down is because the president of the United States specifically did not have the authority to do this, that this is something that should be a law passed by Congress, because what the Supreme Court was doing was overturning the president's executive order. So in theory, that doesn't mean that the Congress can't write a law, pass a law. And of course, we're talking about in theory here, because in practice, if Congress can't even pass the SAVE Act, despite the fact that 80% of Americans are for the SAVE Act, what's the likelihood do you think that Congress is going to pass a law to ban birthright citizenship? Probably very low. So there's theory and then there's practice, but that opening is there. And that's going to be the route that we're going to have to take. That's the only route right now. So this whole case, of course, turns on 4 words. The amendment grants citizenship to persons born here and subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. So the government argued that those words were never meant to cover the children of people here illegally or on a 2-week tourist visa. The dissent, of course, says the majority drained that phase of any real meaning, treating it as decoration instead of a limit. Now, that is the fight, and that is not over. But keep in mind, this is the kind of mentality that we are up against here in this fight.
I was thinking about this, and I think there are various sources that say this, that you obviously have permanent allegiance based on being born in whatever country you're from. That's what everybody recognizes. But you also have local allegiance when you are on the soil of this other sovereign. And I was thinking, I, a U.S. citizen, am visiting Japan. And what it means is that, if I steal someone's wallet in Japan, the Japanese authorities can arrest me and prosecute me. It's allegiance, meaning can they control you as a matter of law? I can also rely on them if my wallet is stolen to, under Japanese law, go and prosecute the person who has stolen it. So there's this relationship based on, even though I'm a temporary traveler, I'm just on vacation in Japan, I'm still locally owing allegiance in that.
So stupid. If you steal a wallet in Japan, you may be subject to their jurisdiction in terms of criminal prosecution, but you don't become a Japanese citizen because you steal a wallet. Does birthright ruling damage the economy? Yes, of course, because that person then becomes entitled to welfare and benefits. And then, of course, their parents who have to stay there to take care of that child, they become eligible for benefits. And so they're taking from a system that they didn't pay into. So yes, it does damage the economy. But if you strip out the law for a second, if you look at the problem that the court waved off, the Solicitor General told the justices in April, we live in a world where 8 billion people are just one plane ride away from a child with an American passport. This is not a fringe paranoia. We've talked about this story before. These Chinese billionaires are coming to the United States. They're renting houses, these mega mansions, and then they go in and they start birthing as many children as they can out of these mansions. Then they take those kids and they bring them back to China, and they're educating them in China. Those Chinese children have American citizenship, which means that they have American rights to be brought back at any time for whatever purpose that these people desire. So as the ruling dropped yesterday, even House Speaker Mike Johnson conceded that it called birth tourism grossly abused in recent years. So this has been a growing problem. When the game is this obvious that both sides are admitting this, pretending that this isn't a problem and that it doesn't exist is a deliberate choice. And Roberts, of course, Justice Roberts, he handed us the road map, I think, without even meaning to. When he said the government said it is a new world, he answered that it's the same Constitution. So in other words, the document doesn't bend to the headline. So if you wanted to say something new, we're going to have to amend it or legislate it. So if he thinks that ends the conversation, I think he just told us where to aim, because everything after this is the plan. Now, the flagship is already written to overturn this. It's sitting in committee. It's the Birthright Citizenship Act of 2025, Senate Bill 304 from Lindsey Graham. Oh, did I suddenly become a Lindsey Graham fan? The question remains, why did KBJ immediately go to the analogy wallet? Oh, Riley. You can't say that here. Actually, you can. But Lindsey Graham, Senate Bill 304. Everybody call representative and tell him you support Lindsey Graham. Everybody say, we support Lindsey Graham this morning. Yeah. But you didn't expect that today. House Bill 569 from Brian Babin of Texas rewrites the statute at the center of this case. 8 U.S. Code 1401 says a child born here is a citizen at birth only if at least one parent is an American citizen, a green card holder living in the country, or a lawful non-citizen serving in our armed forces. It is not retroactive. It carries 51 co-sponsors in the House. So this is the exact statutory path that Kavanaugh pointed out this morning that I've mentioned. It's already drafted. It's waiting for a floor vote. A child born here is a citizen at birth only if one parent is an American citizen or a green card holder or a lawful non-citizen serving in our armed forces. Now, there's a second bill that goes even harder than this one, and it builds straight on the dissent. This is called the Constitutional Citizenship Clarification Act. This is House Bill 4741 from Claudia Tenney of New York, amends the same immigration statute, but grounds itself in the old common law rule that citizenship comes from allegiance and obedience, not merely the soil. This is pretty hardcore. It excludes the children of illegal aliens, the children of foreign spies, saboteurs, and terrorists. So this is the Justice Thomas and Gorsuch argument that has already been turned into legislative text, and it's ready for a clean test case that the dissent was asking for. So we've got a couple of good test bills out there. Now, on birth tourism specifically, the question of people coming here specifically for birth tours, there are entire industries, by the way. There's entire corporations devoted to serving the birth tourism marketplace. Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee has the Ban Birth Tourism Act. This is Senate Bill 1812. This would amend immigration law to declare foreign nationals traveling here to give birth for citizenship inadmissible on a visitor visa. And I said this yesterday, someone is pregnant, clearly pregnant, visa denied. So this is the precise version of the visa remedy. I know that you're going to say, how can you tell if she's pregnant or just fat? Well, pee on this strip. How's that? Are you going to make people do a pee test before they come? Yes. This bill would target the transaction. This goes after the industry of birth tourism. This is ready to go after people who are taking these trips here specifically and the corporations that are bringing them here. So the paid trip to buy a passport, right? So John Cornyn of Texas is going after the people selling it. His Back Off Act puts criminal penalties on the facilitators, the brokers, the operators running the organized birth tourism schemes, and the fraud that feeds them. And it stands up a dedicated enforcement task force to break the networks. So this is the remedy that will never produce a sympathetic victim for the other side, because the target on this one is a businessman selling a citizenship, not a mother. When you start saying, oh, we need to start denying citizenships to, oh, pregnant mothers, how dare you? It hurts my feelings. And when somebody's feelings are hurt, we have to put aside the Constitution and freedom. So that might be the most passable. If you're asking for what's actually possible to pass, then that is probably the most likely, Cornyn's bill. So, and for anybody who says a statute will never hold, look across the Atlantic. The United Kingdom ended birthright citizenship decades ago through the British Nationality Act, an ordinary law, no constitutional rewrite required. Australia and Ireland did the same. The United States is now in a shrinking club of roughly 30 countries that still hand citizenship to nearly everyone born on the ground. The nations that we compare ourselves to closed this door with legislation, and the sky didn't fall. They probably didn't go far enough. So here's a question for you. We're told birth tourism is too rare to worry about. So then why is there an entire paid industry of brokers and maternity hotels that advertise this openly, and who benefits from convincing you that this isn't happening? Now, the court said change this through the people, not the pen. Why does the same crowd that lectures us about democracy go silent the instant people might actually get to vote on who becomes a citizen? Now, in every other setting, subject to the jurisdiction means you answer fully to our laws. If a foreign visitor's child is completely under our jurisdiction, why does that visitor get to act like the rules of a nation are optional the moment that it suits them? Why are they not subject to the jurisdiction thereof? Why aren't they granted automatic citizenship just for being here? Now, most Americans oppose illegal immigration, but they also say they support birthright citizenship. Has anybody honestly explained to this group of people with this cognitive dissonance the difference between ending it and closing a birth tourism loophole? Or is the confusion exactly what the left is counting on? A Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas says that the majority repurposed an amendment written for freed slaves whenever it suited their preferred outcome. So if these words can be stretched when it helps the open border side, how come it can never be read in the original context when it actually helps the country?
I'd rather die than withdraw. If they're going to kill me, they're going to kill me.
So you'd still like to serve on the Supreme Court?
I'd rather die than withdraw from the process. Not for the purpose of serving on the Supreme Court, but for the purpose of not being driven out of this process. I would not be scared. I don't like bullies. I've never run from bullies. I never cry uncle, and I'm not going to cry uncle today, whether I want to be on the Supreme Court or not.
Good shit, man. Thank you, Quest Fanning. You're just tuning into the Wake Up America show. Good morning. I'm Austin Peterson. Glad and thankful to have you here. If you're enjoying the content today, make sure that you click the like button. If today is the first time you've ever watched the Wake Up America show, click the follow button as well. Come back and join us Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. We're very grateful to you. Quest Fanning just gifted a sub over to our friend CHEF30. We appreciate the Quest. And thank you to Byron Norris, who's made some contributions this morning as well. I'd like to watch our bonus content instead of commercials. Every little contribution, like what Quest Fanning is doing, and every purchase made at forlibertyshop.com helps to unlock that bonus content, guys. So head on over to forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. Austin Peterson will say anything for a buck. What? Excuse me? What is this? Looks like we've got a new haters page, guys. A new haters page on Facebook. Yes. This is like the kind of stuff that happened back when I was running for office. I'm not even for. Look at this. Look at my beautiful blue eyes. Did anybody remember when I had blue eyes? They maybe look like Marty McFly from Back to the Future. Somebody started a Facebook page dedicated to on AP. It says Austin Peterson will say anything for a buck. That's not true. Every gift sub on here is at least $5. So for a buck, I would never. For $5. They're coming after me for going after that Twitter chick, Martha Bueno. Nothing says America first or libertarian non-intervention like dismissing an attack on American soldiers because you're too busy playing cheerleader for Argentina and Israel. The neocon transformation is 100% complete. Yeah, I support Argentina. Yeah, I support Israel. Don't be such a faggot. It sounds like anarcho-statism or pacifist warmongering. Just pick a side, Austin. The hyphen is doing way too much lifting here. Look, I love how like the only person who's like commenting underneath this, not even getting any likes, June 3rd. Let's see if all of the comments below are their own page. They're really trying hard here. Remember when libertarianism was about individual rights and free markets instead of identity politics and culture war baiting? Yeah, that was when it sucked. And now I'm making it awesome. AP, I can't be bought, but I can be rented. Leased. Thank you. You know what that means, guys? The truth is, though, is that even with everything that we're facing with, even with the challenges that we've got, we're making people uncomfortable. What I'm doing here is making people uncomfortable, which is a sign that you are effective, okay? They don't do things like that if you're not making them feel uncomfortable. And we're making the right people feel uncomfortable. So if the type of people that you want to see suffer in this country are the people who make Facebook pages like that, if you want to see those people continue to suffer, then let's do a little grifting. Drop a Rumble rant. Head over to forlibertyshop.com. Every purchase that you make goes to torture a Lulbert. Every shirt that you buy, every box of coffee at forlibertyshop.com. I just love that they took the time to actually go and make this picture, and they didn't even bother to think, oh, look, let's make him look even more attractive than he actually is. Because think about this. Look how good looking this makes me look. I don't have that much hair. I mean, yeah, I've got some wrinkles now. I'm getting up there. I'm 45 years old. I'm getting up there. But I mean, do I have these beautiful blue eyes? I wish. Thank you, Byron. Appreciate that. But how are you going to tax it? You know what would be funny is I should start the look. Oh God, there. See, that's the real me. Look. You know what would be funny is that I should pay people to like start these kinds of groups to make me more famous, because this is actually how Milo Yiannopoulos got big. Was that whenever he would give a speech on campus, he would actually pay people to protest his event, because everybody's like, oh wow, I want to go see or hear this. So you know what? I've been thinking about doing that for years. That's what I'm going to do. I need to start paying people to come out online and just like mass attack me, instead of like doing what most people say people do, which is they say, oh, you pay people to support you online. People pay for bots to support you, but I need to pay for bots to attack me, because honestly, you can't pay for this kind of publicity. That's good stuff. Check out 10 Dumbest, as I said, Austin Peterson out of context. That shit's hilarious. Let's see. Gosh, man, this is, I could just spend a lot of time on there, but I'm not going to do it, because at 8 a.m. Central here on the Wake Up America show, we're going to speak to State Representative, State Senator Rick Brattin, who's running for Congress here in mid-Missouri. We're going to talk to him about the citizenship question at the Supreme Court. Then after that at 8:30, we've got Nick Cooper, a fellow libertarian nationalist. He was the guy that was at the New Hampshire event last week wearing the MAGA cap. So if you guys want to see Nick Cooper, make sure that you're here at 8:30. So Arvolt 24 volunteers. He's going to call me names for free. He might as well get paid. Exactly, guys. Do me a favor. Everybody come at me. Guns a-blazing over on Twitter. Attack, attack, attack. Let's raise my profile. Appreciate you guys. Thanks so much. We've got 100 people watching us live over on Rumble, which is amazing. Please do click the like button. We'd love to have you be a regular guest, so click the follow button as well. And while we're on our commercial break, while I go get Senator Rick Brattin, head on over to forlibertyshop.com. Check out all the amazing new merch that we have over at the Grift Shop. When you go to forlibertyshop.com, you can see all of our amazing new stuff, like the Nixon's the One Ringer tee, the Don't California My Missouri t-shirt, and the Penguin Tactical tee. The Flight Was Never an Option tee. So, okay. Never had sex with a woman who had to pay for it, right, Joel? Well, thank you guys for all the subs. Keep them coming, and we'll surely hit that $100 bonus content today, and you guys will get to unlock the mini documentary. All right, we'll be right back with Senator Rick Brattin talking birthright citizenship. He's running for Congress. What's his take on it? We'll be right back. This is the Wake Up America show, and you're watching the For Liberty Network.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back, with sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than
well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian.
and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
And what is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Welcome back to the Wake Up America Show. I'm glad to have you here. Click the like button. And if today is your first time ever watching the Wake Up America Show, click the follow button as well. It's nice to see all the support over there from you guys online. Love seeing all the comments. Mo Farmer, Missouri Farmer says, Austin, please pay me. I've been hating you for free. Guys, that was a joke. You just keep the love coming, all right? Let the haters hate. They're paying my bills too. My next guest is Rick Brattin. He's a Missouri State Senator for District 31. He represents Cass County, which is my home county where I was raised. Bates and Johnson County. He's a Marine Corps veteran. Hoorah! He's a small business owner, Club for Growth fellow, and a Republican candidate for Missouri's 5th Congressional District. That's the one that's right there next door to me. The Supreme Court just handed President Trump a major loss on birthright citizenship, but the fight isn't over. The question now is whether Congress has the spine to do what the court said the president could not do alone. Senator Brattin, welcome to the Wake Up America Show. Good to see you, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Good to be on.
So let's start with the ruling itself, Rick. The Supreme Court just shut down Trump's birthright citizenship order. What was your reaction when you saw the decision come down?
Well, I know there's debate in regards to whether or not an executive order is applicable in this situation, but their ruling was further. It went to the core of a misinterpretation, and I believe that Justice Thomas and Alito. I mean, Thomas is known for his very short, pithy dissents. He wrote 91-page dissent of how egregious this ruling is. So it wasn't necessarily just to overturn an executive order. This was to completely and totally, in my estimation and many others, misinterpret the meaning of the 14th Amendment to allow birthright citizenship. So to me, this was egregious. I often wonder if this was because of what we saw with the Dobbs decision and all the crazy lunacy and the death threats and all this. I don't know if the court was, some of these guys were, terrified of what may come of if they would have overturned this from the left. I don't know. But that's when you look at, like, in 1898, the Supreme Court, spoke and it actually ruled on the same topic, and they ruled how the framers of the 14th Amendment actually, with the little provision of let me make sure, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, and that was like a big term then. Now we look at it and it's like glanced over, and it's a huge glance over by allowing people to come here illegally and now become a citizen of the United States.
Yeah, so like you said, this whole case turns on this question of what does it mean when they say subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Most Americans hear that, Rick, and they assume that means born here, but the dissent says that it means complete political jurisdiction and allegiance. So how should conservatives explain that fight in normal human language to the average voter?
Well, that you have complete and total allegiance to the United States. I mean, this was the actual 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were written for slaves brought here against their will, who had been here for generations and were, by every aspect, were American citizens. They were within the confines of the laws of the United States. They were Americans. They were slave Americans being freed, and they should have had all the equal protection under the law of the United States. But what they ruled was that you can come here from China, be on a vacation, give birth in a hospital here for being here for one day, and now assume the full capabilities of being a United States citizen. So it literally is meaningless now to be a United States citizen. And in that 1898 Supreme Court ruling, that was the question at hand, was dealing with invading armies and people who are hostile to the United States. And this was the question that they answered, stating that the purpose of the subject to the jurisdiction thereof explicitly ruled out the foreign diplomats and foreign invading armies and those who are hostile to the means of the United States. That is what they ruled. I mean, like, they actually have court precedent to show that's what this meant. But yet we had, Cody Barrett, we had, Kavanaugh and Roberts, rule with this outlandish, hippie mindset of what the 14th Amendment means.
This is a wild case. I'm not sure if you've heard about this one, Senator, but this is from the Wall Street Journal. It tells this story. Inside a closed Los Angeles courtroom, something wasn't right. Clerks working for a family court judge were reviewing routine surrogacy petitions when they spotted an unusual pattern, the same name again and again. A Chinese billionaire was seeking parental rights to at least 4 unborn children, and the court's additional research showed that he had already fathered or was in the process of fathering at least 8 more, all through surrogates. So Chinese billionaires are coming to the United States. They're renting mansions in California. They're having surrogate children, dozens of them. Then once the child is born, it's an American citizen. They bring that child back to China, educate that child in China with the intention of bringing that child back to the United States one day for the explicit purpose of voting in our elections, running for Congress, essentially taking over. What do you think about this situation? What needs to be done about this, Senator?
Well, we've got to revamp and send back to the voters restructuring this amendment to ensure that this sort of loophole is not allowed. It's egregious. I mean, these foreign invaders, and China is quite clear. They're light years ahead of us. They're relentless, and they will not stop of trying to topple their biggest competitor, the United States. And they've this glaring loophole. They don't need a firearm. They don't need arms in which to be the foreign invader to take us over. They just need pregnant women. And it's quite clear by this right here. That's exactly what's happening. And this just opens the floodgates even more. I mean, you look at the Biden administration letting in tens of millions of illegal immigrants. Well, if they're all having babies here, and I mean, it's a true invasion that's occurring. And the Supreme Court just literally green lighted this, the birther and the birth tourism aspect of this. I mean, it's really detrimental what they just ruled on.
Senator, you're running for Congress here in mid-Missouri. You've been a state senator here in Missouri. You've been a state representative, and now you're running to go to Congress. And this is going to be an issue that you're going to have to face if you win this election. But I have a question for you that's tangentially related to this one. So the Founding Fathers, when they wrote the Constitution, they made it so that the President of the United States had to be considered a natural-born citizen. But do you think that with the incursion of some of these democratic socialists who were not natural-born citizens in the United States, that maybe the Founding Fathers overlooked a natural-born citizenship clause that should have been required for, I don't know, federal judges, congressmen, or senators? Should it be extended to high federal office in this country? The President of the United States is currently the only role at that level that is required to be a natural-born citizen, but should we extend that to all of the other high-level roles?
Well, I think they tried to cover this in the 14th Amendment that we're talking about in Section 3, that you had to have an allegiance to the United States in order to serve as a representative. They tried to do that. When you look at AOC or not AOC, Ilhan Omar, where she's even said that she's pledged her allegiance to Somalia, to the Somalian people, to the Somalian flag.
There was another one who said she's like, I'm a Guatemalan first and an American second.
And so, I mean, the 14th Amendment explicitly says that if you're, pledging allegiance to another nation, then you should be removed from office, and by 2/3 majority. But I will absolutely support, and if we have to, again, put forth a new amendment that clarifies this, but also makes it to where all federal offices and especially judgeships, the name of that judge, escapes me. I forget her name. It was some weird Starry or something like that.
Sparkles, Starnon. Judge Sparkles
has no business whatsoever being a judge, making rulings in accordance with the law when they absolutely hate every aspect of the law in the United States that they're supposedly serving and swearing an oath to. So we have got to revamp this and put this before the voters again.
One of the questions that people have a hard time grappling with, Senator, is a question of what does it mean to be a citizen? Right? There's this famous novel by the name of Starship Troopers. They turned it into like an action film in the 90s, but it actually grapples with this concept of citizenship as a concept above civilianship. You served in the United States military, so I think that you, and especially as a U.S. Marine, and more than others, you probably understand this concept. But what is the difference? What does it mean to be a citizen? What does citizenship entail? Is it a spiritual concept? Is it a legal concept? A bit of both? What does it mean in your mind to be a citizen?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of both, and as like not just a Marine, but as a Christian, I mean, you have ownership, you have as going to be a citizen of heaven. I mean, it requires me to embody and embrace and be a part of the Christian faith and adhere to the confines of that faith. But when you're a citizen of the United States, it's to adhere to that, and it's to assimilate and to embody what it is to be an American, not to come here and hate every aspect of what America provides and entails and gives. We speak of the inherent rights granted to us in the Constitution that are given by God. Well, that doesn't mean that just because you're from, we do believe that God gives these rights, but it's the American citizen that's able to really obtain and understand and embody those rights that are granted to us by God, but in our form of government. And you have to be able to really be able to take that ownership and protect it and defend it. Not, for lack of better terms, piss on it at every step that you possibly can and try to destroy it. And I heard it's, like with immigration, immigration is not a pact, a suicide pact. It's like we want we want people to come here and enjoy the American experience, but that doesn't mean we're going to bring foreign invaders that want to literally destroy America with the intent to destroy America and be so naive to think that just because you're coming here from the third world, you're going to leave the third world behind. And that's what we're seeing. They're not embodying and embracing the American ideal and everything that we embrace here. It is a sense of duty to be an American and to project that. So it's more, there's so much more. It's very complex to really embrace your citizenship.
We're speaking to State Senator Rick Brattin. He's running for Congress here in mid-Missouri. We're talking a little bit about the Supreme Court decision on birthright citizenship that was handed down yesterday. Now, Senator, Republicans, they usually have a habit of getting a big court loss and then they send fundraising emails, but then they move on. So what would it look like for a Republican Congress to actually treat this as a real legislative project instead of just another fundraising email? Should this issue become the center of our gravity in the same way that Roe versus Wade once was?
Well, I think absolutely. It was with immigration. It's been kind of that was the metric in which Trump ran on. That was the requirement for a Congress to act to stop illegal immigration. And what this ruling did, it really just solidified that continued movement, but it just made it that much more of a hurdle of which we've got to overcome. So we have to be relentless, just like the left. That's, as much as I despise the left, I at least have to give them accolades that they are relentless. They don't give in. They stay on message. They continue. They do not stop. We have to have that mindset, just like they do. I mean, we're warring of the minds and of the culture right now. And Republicans, got to stop the stupid email, blasts and start actually getting down and doing the policy to preserve America, or we won't have an America to have for our kids and our grandkids. I just became a grandfather 5 months ago. This coming weekend, 5 months. I mean, it's amazing to see my baby have a baby, but in an America now that just in a one little generation, it could be gone. And my grandkid may not grow up in an amazing America. We may have foreign invaders literally ruling this land. This is something we can't take lightly. I won't take lightly, and I will be relentless in fixing this issue.
Talk to us a little bit about your campaign, Senator. What are the issues that you're running on other than the immigration question as well, and what sets you apart from your competitors?
Well, the fact that I am who I say I am, I will do exactly what I say I will do, and have done that in the state legislature. Things are going fantastic. The message is on point. We're growing our base and our grassroots efforts, day by day. The momentum's been fantastic. But no, illegal immigration has been one. I come from the construction trades. That's been even before all these rulings, and then even before even Trump came on the scene. Immigration has been one that I've been trying to combat. But we've got to bring accountability to within government, within the crazy lunacy that's happening within our programs, like our welfare and all this fraud, waste, and abuse that we're seeing all over the place. But again, I know it. I don't want to continue to beat the drum of illegal immigration, but the hub that it is. You look at Minnesota, you look at all the fraud that's going on. The system was literally set up under the Obama administration to actually, help facilitate this takeover. So fighting against that, the Democrat crazy woke Marxists. You're just kind of being the dam that's holding back the lunacy. I think in Washington's a lot of it, and that's what I'll attempt to bring. Our spending's out of control. We've got to bring that. We're at almost $40 trillion in debt. Of how we're able to start walking that back and stop printing and devaluing our dollar. There's a million things when you're in the legislature that come up that you're able to try to do. And I've tried to do that in the state legislature by protecting life, our liberty, guns, you name it. I've tried to protect, and that's been my mantra in my state legislative experience, and we'll bring that to Washington.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm speaking to State Senator Rick Brattin, who's running for Congress this morning. He's joining us live here on the Wake Up America show. He's from my home district of Cass County, that's western Missouri, and he's now running to take a seat in the House. This is the new congressional district, right? Is this the one that basically supplants Emanuel Cleaver in that district? Rick, explain to us a little bit which district this covers here.
Yeah, so this is so the old 5th was basically all of Kansas City. Now the new 5th is a portion of Kansas City. It's split into 3 congressmen. So a lot of people are up in arms saying, "Oh, it's removed our representation." Well, Kansas City went from 1 representative to 3 congressional members that are going to be advocating for Kansas City. So it's actually a huge win for Kansas City. But it's now a very big district. It follows the Missouri River Valley over to Columbia, takes in Jefferson City, Cole County, and then the north part of the Lake of the Ozarks over to Johnson County, all of Johnson County with Whiteman Air Force Base. So it went from 1 county to 15, but now it's we're going to be sending a strong Republican advocating versus a guy that's been a radical left amen a women Democrat that really hasn't done much for the state of Missouri. So I think it's time that we send fresh new ideas, and we did so. I was one of the original members in the Senate that was fighting for the 7-1 map when the 7-1 map wasn't cool, and it's great that the president came in and really wanted us to try to get this done. We were able to get it done, and now it's going to be great to say "I told you so" kind of deal, like, hey, we should have done this to begin with, but hey, better late than never, right?
Yeah, for sure. One last question before we let you go. This is going to be the hard question. This is kind of like the big picture sort of ideological question. I wonder what your response was to this. The Vice President of the United States said in an interview the other day that, or J.D. Vance, said that the Republican Party is moving towards what he called Hamiltonian economics, right? And away from Milton Friedman style laissez-faire economics. So the idea is that the Republican Party is moving towards a view of economics that the government should do more things for the people. You were talking about fiscal conservatism earlier. This seems to fly in the face of it. I mean, do you agree with J.D. Vance? Is the economy a tool that's supposed to serve the dignity of the human person? Or is it about allowing individuals the right to choose what to do with their own money? So are you more of the J.D. Vance, Alexander Hamilton school, or more of the Milton Friedman laissez-faire school in your mind?
Yeah, no, I'm a free market capitalist, and Milton Friedman was a giant. Thomas Sowell and all those the intellectuals that understand economics and how they work. And I absolutely hope that we are not moving towards government intervening. We've seen what government does to industry. We've seen what it does to every aspect of everything it touches. And it hasn't been for the better. It's been for the worse. We're the largest debt we've ever seen in all of mankind. And I don't think we really have much to show for it other than debt, and it's riddled on the backs of our children. So we've got to get back to free market capitalist ideas and allow. We just had the first trillionaire, and let's be real, it wasn't because he was taking government handouts. It was because he was innovative and he took the market. He saw the need in the market and he exploited it, and he did everything he could to explode that onto the scene. I mean, he did every metric of that free market initiative, and is now the first trillionaire in the world. It wasn't because government did it for him, and we have to take a page of everything we're seeing in history being written before us.
Well, you could say the government did it for him if you say that they printed enough money to make it like Zimbabwe currency. So the government made him. There would be no trillionaires if we didn't inflate the currency to such a rate. Congressman, or Senator, where can people follow your campaign and donate or follow, like, and comment and do whatever you want them to do when you're running for Congress?
Rick Brattin for Congress is my website. I'm on or rickbrattin.com. Rick Brattin for Congress on Facebook and then Twitter. So you can follow me, please reach out. Your help would be tremendous. But thanks for having me on, Austin. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Senator. Wish you the best of luck, and we'll see if people in the comments section what they have to say after the interview. You have a great day.
Thanks, you too. Take care.
Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed that. That's State Senator Rick Brattin from where I was raised out there in Cass County, Missouri. Hope you guys enjoyed that interview. If you hit the like button, and if today's the first time you ever watched the Wake Up America show, click the follow button as well. Coming up after the break, one of us. You know him as Red Pill Prof in the comment section. Is this the first time that somebody from the comment section has made it on the show? It might be Nick Cooper, Dr. Nick Cooper, Dr. Love. No time for love, Dr. Jones. Dr. Nick Cooper joins us to talk about the future of libertarianism, MAGA, and the right. His thoughts on the comments that J.D. Vance said about Milton Friedman versus Alexander Hamilton. What can we do to make the country better? He's an economist. He's an Austrian. No, he's an American. He's an Austrian American. And somebody who understands the problem. He's read all the right books, but if you have no political machine, you're not a movement. Joining us next, Red Pill Prof in the comments.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than
well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian.
And always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
The left in America tells us not to have kids to save the planet, but in Cuba, they stopped having kids because the state destroyed the earth.
Collectivism doesn't create justice. It creates shortages, corruption, and power for the few. I've not just seen it, I've lived it. My family escaped it. Now, the same failed ideas are being sold to a new generation. I'm here to expose the lie and defend liberty. From Cuba to Argentina to the United States, the freedom movement is rising. Cafecito Libre is the exile voice of economic truth. Cafecito Libre, premiering March 3rd as part of the For Liberty Network, only on Rumble.
Spent 8 years making sure nobody knew where he was. Troop movements, secret dispatches. The man was a ghost. So when a barista leaned out a window and asked for his exact location in exchange for points they called stars, he looked at his flag and said, "I've already got my stars. 13 of them. Keep your dignity and your location intact. Grab a box of Washington's Revolutionary Roast at forlibertyshop.com.
Hark! I've discovered a brew so bold, 'twill ignite the spirit of liberty. This is not merely coffee, 'tis the very essence of American boldness. Give me coffee, or give me death. Go to For Liberty Shop to procure yours now.
Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. Glad and thankful to have you here. If today is just blowing your mind because you're loving this content so much, make sure you click that like button. It's a totally free way to support the show. But because everybody's so generous, you guys have unlocked phase 1 of the bonus content. It means that we're going to have so much more fun even after my next guest joins me. So stick around because we've got the mini documentary unlocked and we might even have a great grift off. So keep an eye on things. My next guest joining us live is Dr. Nick Cooper. Doctor. He earned his PhD in economics. He's from George Mason, specializing in monetary theory and Austrian economics. He teaches econ at Kennesaw State, and he's a visiting scholar at the Bagwell Center, first vice president of the Georgia Republican Assembly. So he's not just thinking about liberty in theory. He's also thinking about how liberty gets power. And that's where the hat comes in, because libertarians have the ideas, MAGA has the engine. The question is whether anybody's serious enough to put them together. Dr. Cooper, welcome to Wake Up America. Good to see you again after the Boston tour.
Yes, hello. Very great to be with you this morning, Austin. Really appreciate it.
Now, Nick,
that Boston tour was a fun time.
It was fun. We're so grateful to have you here, Nick, because you and I have been talking about this for quite some time, batting this back and forth over text messages. Not just the theory, because you've got the degree. We all understand the theories. For the most part, it's not a question of not enough libertarians understand libertarianism, although some people make that argument as well, Doctor. But libertarians, we've spent decades, we've won every argument, we've won every debate, we've lost every election, we've lost every power play from practice. So in your point of view, why does a movement that has so many correct diagnoses keep failing to build anything that lasts?
Yeah, that's a really interesting and difficult question to answer, because it's been this long time discussion within libertarian circles is just how to get from here to there. And I got to tell you, when I go to GOP events, I'm looking around going, I'm not seeing a whole lot of young people. I'm not seeing a whole lot of people who are loud and vociferous online. But then when you ask them to get off the couch or get out from behind the computer screen and actually go down to a local meeting, they're not really bothered to do it, because that keyboard activism is a lot easier for them to do. And it's a lot more difficult for you to actually get up off your seat and actually go out and try to engage with the public and engage with your own elected officials. It is possible to have these people listen to you. You just have to show up first.
Now, Nick, showing up is one thing. Actually winning more than just an argument and winning some policy fights is another one. I mean, you're an Austrian econ guy, but you're also active in grassroots politics. So what did you learn on the political side? Expand on that a little bit more. What is it that the libertarian intellectual world itself doesn't seem to understand?
You know what? A great example of this is looking at the comment section of the picture that you and I and Jeremy Kaufman took in the wake of the libertarian nationalism discussion that we had up in New Hampshire. I was wearing this hat, and this hat was getting all the comments. Not so much this shirt. Can you see this? What does that say right there?
Mises Institute.
Mises Institute right there. That didn't really get any comments on it. So here I am wearing my MAGA hat and wearing my Mises Institute shirt. So I'm signaling two things there. To the libertarians in the audience, I'm going, hey, I actually know what it is that you're talking about. I've been a summer fellow at the Mises Institute a couple of summers back in grad school. And I'm a George Mason trained economist, which is one of the few places where you can actually study Austrian economics and read through Hayek and Mises and Milton Friedman, because we have to also study the Chicago School too. You can read through that through the course of completing your coursework and actually conducting economic analysis and research in those fields and actually get a dissertation written in those areas. And so we're all aware of all of the theory. We're all aware of all of the right answers to all of the questions. And guess who else thinks that they have all the right answers to all the questions? Everyone else involved in politics. Libertarians, it seems, forget that they're people too, and that we're all we could all fall victim to the same foibles that we're so good about pointing out in our opposition. So we can point to a progressive or conservative and say, yeah, look at the confirmation bias that they're using here, or the double standard that they're applying there, or whatever. And I see it in the libertarian movement all the time. And what's frustrating about it is to see this pretense that a lot of libertarians have about themselves, where they say, because we have all the right answers, that's all we need to do. We just need to retweet another debate-owned video clip, and then that's going to
another Thomas Sowell meme. This time we're going to win.
Yes. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't a proper role for all those sorts of things. And one thing that I really liked about your interview with Walter Block the other day is that he did mention a division of labor. He did mention comparative advantage. And there are some people who do have a comparative advantage in pushing these ideas to their places that they haven't been before. And that's kind of the role of a scholar. It's kind of the role of an Austrian economist, is to conduct research that hasn't been done in the past. And
my comparative advantage is that unlike many libertarians and scholars, libertarian scholars and activists, is that my comparative advantage is social skills. I can speak like a normal human being to people.
Yes.
No.
Yes, and that is a very important component of this, to take the big ideas, distill them down to a digestible manner, and then convey it out to the general public, because there is that last component, that last step of the process, which so many libertarians forget about, is actually showing up and actually knocking on doors to help a candidate win a campaign, for example.
Dr. Cooper, there's libertarians, they hear MAGA and they see your hat and they obviously tune out, many of them. But the ones who don't just kind of have a fit, they immediately will attack you on his tariffs or the culture war. It's big government in a red hat. But MAGA voters, they also hate the deep state. They distrust Washington. They love gun rights, and they know the economy is rigged. So, is there a real opening for libertarians inside the MAGA coalition in your mind?
Absolutely. And I see it in my own personal experience through my activities with the Georgia Republican Assembly. And this is where I put in the shameless plug here for the group that I'm associated with here in Georgia. It's a local activism group. It operates on a statewide basis, but it's actually the Georgia state chapter of the National Federation of Republican Assemblies, which is a nationwide organization. And what are the Republican Assemblies? It's essentially a grassroots organization that's dedicated to providing conservatives and liberty-minded activists with an avenue to being effective within the GOP. We understand that the Democrats have been lost for a century. Grover Cleveland, who's one of my favorite presidents in American history, is a long time ago, and that Democratic Party is not coming back anytime soon. It is the party of AOC. It is the party of Zohran Mamdani. I just saw last night, I think there was like a 15-term incumbent congresswoman in Colorado who was just supplanted by a DSA, Democratic Socialists of America group. And if there's one thing that the DSA and the commies have learned is that activism within the DNC, within the Democrats, gets them their policy outcomes that they want. They get their people elected to federal, state, and local office. And it seems like the libertarians who've been I'll say playing patty cake with each other in the Libertarian Party since 1971 have basically been sidelining themselves.
Now here's the thing. The reason why I booked you specifically is because one of the statements you had made in your text was really good. You'd said that we should be the rudder for MAGA. It's the only way we'll ever get anything pro-liberty done for the next decade. Talk to us about how can libertarians like ourselves be the rudder for MAGA? What does that mean, and what do you think that would look like?
So that's the point of me wearing this hat here, is that I'm signaling to libertarians, I know your stuff, and I know all the right theories and stuff, and I'm signaling over here to my friends on the conservative side and the Republican side of the aisle that says, hey, I'm coming at you as a friend. I'm not coming at you as someone who is going to be showing up out of nowhere and saying, hey, I'm seeing you spank your child, and maybe you have a family justification for it. I'm not getting into the ideology of spanking.
Peaceful parenting.
But if someone comes in from out of nowhere and says, hey, I don't think you should be raising your child in this particular way, you as the family member, you as the parent say, hey, I know my child better than you know what the situation is here. Maybe it's appropriate for me to spank my child because he just decided to kick and punch and bite some other kid, so I'm trying to discipline him. The point is that, to apply that analogy to the political parties. So the libertarians like to show up to the GOP and they say, well, I know I haven't been showing up to your meetings. I haven't been donating to your campaigns. I haven't been putting in the sweat equity that you have been putting in for candidates for state, federal, and local office that you have been doing. But I'm going to tell you what you need to be doing on a regular basis in order to try to solicit my vote. It's almost no surprise that the GOP, well, not the GOP generally, but certain sections of the GOP just say, well, I guess we don't really need your 3%. And that was the point that Trump made at the LP convention. And it turned out not even to be 3%. It was like 0.5% for Chase Oliver. And so, when I show up with this hat, I'm showing up as a friend saying, I care about the outcomes that you want. And this is where, in a lot of libertarian discourse, when we're talking with leftists, a lot of them don't want the outcomes that we want. A lot of people on the conservative side and the Republican side do want the same things that we want, such as stronger families. And you see that in the discussion with that video clip with Michael Knowles and JD Vance, is that, okay, JD wants a particular outcome and MAGA has an engine to it, and JD Vance is going to be one of those conductors of this ship as it goes along, as one of the captains of that boat. But if we don't have good, solid grounding in economics instruction from the Austrian perspective, from the Chicago School, from the Public Choice School of Economics to guide that ship down the right path, and they're going to implement a policy that's just going to be an iceberg, and it's not going to have the intended effect that they want. Because they're going to end up essentially imposing a bunch of big government policies that we know better than they do in a lot of ways, because we've done the deep research in the studies and that they may not have done as much of. But we do have to grant them the benefit of the doubt to say, hey, we want the same outcome as you do for your community, for your state, for your country. And I'm coming at you as an ally, and we're going to be on the same side in this. I'm not going to jump ship for the other side and turn turncoat, which is unfortunately what we're seeing with people like what Thomas Massey has been doing.
That was my next question. Dr. Cooper, what happened to Thomas Massey?
Thomas Massey, it seems like, has drank a lot of his own Kool-Aid, where he tends to think that, it's almost like he's living in 2012 in his mind. That there's a saying that goes around, for anarchists and ANCAPs, to stop living in Ancapistan in your head, because we want to take this model of how we think the world should be and then apply it to the real world. When we say, well, the real world doesn't resemble it, well, then we need to fix the real world until it resembles my model. Maybe there's something about your model that's actually missing something, that's actually a little bit broken. And it seems like Mr. Massey still thinks that it's 2012 and that we need this mass group of people who need to be awakened, which anyone who's studied Italian elite theory knows that, well, there's not really such thing as the masses. There's not going to be this mass awakening where suddenly everyone, it's strange how it almost resembles what is it, Marxist false consciousness, where the workers are going to suddenly realize their oppression. They're going to rise up all at once and throw off their chains and then overthrow the bourgeoisie, and it's going to be the dictatorship of the proletariat and stuff. Libertarians tell themselves a very similar story where it's like, hey, if only we're going to have someone who's going to wake up the masses and tell them how the state has been oppressing them in so many different ways, then suddenly they'll have this great grand awakening and they'll rise up in opposition to the people who are in charge right now, completely forgetting that the people who are in charge right now are in charge because of the people who've elected them and put them into those positions of power that already exist.
Now, Dr. Cooper, you've avoided one major hot button issue in all of this, and it relates to Thomas Massey. It relates to the Mises caucus factions, and that is the Israel litmus test of the modern American liberty movement. Is there an Israel derangement syndrome that has infected the modern liberty movement?
Unfortunately, 100% there is. And if there's one thing that you learn of being involved in local politics is that foreign policy is not on the forefront of everyone's minds. And I remember an interview a while ago with Jeff Shipley. I think he was a former state representative from Iowa, who's also a doctrinaire libertarian. And one thing that he mentioned in an interview, I think it was with Bob Murphy or someone in the libertarian sphere a long time ago, is that oftentimes libertarians will show up telling you what you should worry about, you being the voter in this case, whereas they don't tend to listen to what the voter actually cares about. And voters in Georgia care about election integrity. They care about eliminating the state income tax and a number of local issues that are top 10 issues on their personal lists as to what it is that they care about that's having a direct effect on their lives. Versus if you were to read some of the libertarian analyses from prominent libertarian sources in 2025, for example, in the wake of the municipal elections and a number of elections that took place around the country, if you were to read the explanation behind why the Republicans lost Georgia's Public Service Commission seat, apparently it's because of Israel. And I'm just dumbfounded as to how so many people can think that issue is so overriding to every other issue. And that I think an answer to that is the reason is probably because these libertarian commentators are so online and they see these things come across their desks all the time, and they're
constantly getting fed the Tucker Carlson clips.
Yes.
They're following, they're seeing the Nick Fuentes clips, and they think, and then they're hanging out with Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks. And then they have the audacity to call Trump and MAGA socialists while they stand arm in arm with Ro Khanna, which I find quite ironic, Dr. Cooper, which means that Israel has become the heliocentric theory. Israel is the center of their universe to the detriment of everything else. Now, this is the electoral question. We know it's electoral poison, but what about the moral question here, Dr. Cooper? Like to borrow a phrase or some sophistry from our friend Dave Smith, what about the babies? You're a bloodthirsty monster, and you're killing American taxpayer dollars are being used to fund terrorism against the citizens of Gaza. Doesn't that matter to you? Do you not have a soul, Dr. Cooper? How do you respond to such brilliant intellectual attacks against your positions? Because are you not placing electoral victory above libertarian morality and the murdering of babies, Dr. Cooper?
It's very leftist coded moralizing, because anytime we make the argument against the minimum wage, it's you must hate poor people. You must hate people in the inner city who are just trying to get by. And the moment you get rid of the minimum wage, you're going to make those people starve. So the left has plenty of moralizing that they use in the same manner. That sounds very similar to how the Israel issue gets characterized. And also, that the lefties who say they care so much about Israel, Gaza, the way that you can see that they don't really care all that much is because they're not sharing the videos of Christians in Nigeria being attacked and being slaughtered all over the place. The more Christians are killed in across the world in conflict zones and in countries that oppress Christianity in a legal manner, where it is illegal to be a Christian in so many of those places. More people have died there than any of the wars that America has been involved in, but they're not sharing those clips. And they're not equally morally outraged by those sorts of things. They're outraged about just this one particular issue. And going back to what I said before about how libertarians forget that they're people, libertarians forget that they can be propagandized. And what a lot of these commentators are is that they're being manipulated. They don't realize that they're being manipulated by the algorithms, by the clips that are being fed to them, by all the different NGOs and government institutions that have an interest in pushing a particular message, pushing a particular narrative that will promote a thing on an issue that for a lot of people is frankly falling down on number 10, 15, or 20 of their personal orderings of the issues that they really, truly care about. Yes, it has an impact on gas prices, but it's not the only thing going on with the gas prices. And by the way, on an inflation-adjusted basis, the prices that we're seeing these days are not as bad as they were back in the 70s. So,
no, how dare you? You don't care about the things that are causing harm. It's the war that's the most important thing, Dr. Cooper. We're hanging with Dr. Cooper. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm Austin Peterson. This is our good friend, Dr. Nick Cooper. He is an Austrian economist. He is a lecturer. He's a professor. And he is also a big supporter of the For Liberty Network. Hey, Dr. Cooper, I want to give you an opportunity to plug anything you'd like to plug. This is your chance. If there's anything that you think we missed in this conversation, this is your chance. So feel free to make your closing statement here, your final argument, and share anything with us that you think we might have missed in this conversation.
Absolutely, yes. And to wrap up that last little discussion there is that when you see people like Dave Smith going on and palling around with Cenk Uygur or people retweeting Ro Khanna from the libertarian side, I wear this hat because I'm going to conservatives and Republicans. And speaking myself, who's been influenced by conservatives, I kind of consider myself more of a conservatarian of sorts, like a weird hybrid. It depends on what day it is that you wake up, right? Some days you feel like a libertarian, some days you feel like a conservative. I go to the people in my Republican circles as a friend. They look at libertarians palling around with Ro Khanna and Cenk Uygur, and they see an enemy because they are palling around with the enemy. Cenk Uygur or whatever his name is, and Ro Khanna, they don't want the things that we do want. And so my call across the country, and especially if you're listening from Georgia, is to get involved locally. And in Georgia, in my opinion, the best grassroots organization to get involved with is the Georgia Republican Assembly. The website is georgiara.com. That's GEORGIARA.com. And we're the ones who are showing up to the GOP events, and we're doing the work that's oftentimes unglamorous. Stuff like meeting for a candidate that we want to support. So one of the candidates that we're supporting is running for Fulton County Commission, a local race that actually has national implications, which maybe is something we can discuss at a future event, at a future time. Bridget Thorne, she is out there on the front lines exposing election issues. She was a whistleblower back in 2020, and she needs to keep her seat in the Fulton County Commission. And so we're the ones who are helping organize for her campaign, and we just had a meeting organizing to try to figure out, how we're going to get a bunch of people together to write postcards for her. That's unglamorous. That doesn't get retweeted by
I was going to
Smith.
say that doesn't sound as fun as complaining about Israel online, Dr. Cooper. So I'm afraid we can't help you there. But for people who are serious, if you're in Georgia, which I see JJ4884 is, and I know he's been looking to get involved with some projects, georgiara.com. Dr. Cooper, thanks so much for supporting the For Liberty Network. Thanks for coming on here today and being so generous with your time. And thanks for fighting the good fight and for wearing a MAGA hat, because it's definitely stirring people up online, but I think it's making a good difference. We appreciate
Oh, it's
you.
fun. It's fun. And you love it, and I love it. Let's be honest.
Let's do it.
I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cooper. We appreciate you. All right. Nick Cooper, everybody. Make sure you visit his website there, georgiara.com. Hold on. Let me get my MAGA hat here. Standing in solidarity with our MAGA brothers. There we go. This is our way to signal, to virtue signal, if you will. I come in peace. I'll bring to you the light of liberty. For that, we've unlocked this content, so it's time for us to play a little. Head on over to crowdparty.app. We're all going to play a little mini game, and the mini game is Austrian Economics Party Mix. That means that we're all going to compete in a little fun trivia game. So head on over to crowdparty.app. That's crowdparty.app. When you go to crowdparty.app, you guys are going to get that code and you're going to drop it in. And the code is 51390. That's 51390. We're all going to have a little fun. Now, when I say we're going to play a trivia game, Austrian Economics. So this game is built by AI. So I type in a topic, it does its best. Whenever it's something extremely obscure like this, the questions can be a little dicey, okay? So just go along with it. It's not fair. It's not meant to be fair. Sometimes you're going to get the same question twice. Sometimes the answer is like, what is Austrian economics? And then it'll say Austrian economics. Sometimes it's going to be like, oh, Austrian economics. It's going to have a question about like Arnold Schwarzenegger or something. Okay, so just play along. All right. We've got 7 out of 50 players. We can take up to 50 players. Head on over to crowdparty.app. Type in that code 51390. I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds to get in the game starting now because we still got the other bonus content to play. Go to crowdparty.app. That's crowdparty.app. The Austrian Economics Trivia game will begin in 15 seconds. I've got 8 out of 50 players. We can take up to 50 players. Crowdparty.app. First place is going to win a nice prize. Let's begin. Starting now. Which economist is most associated with the 1871 book, Principles of Economics? Principles of Economics. Ludwig von Mises, Karl Menger, Eugene von Bombewerk, or Friedrich Hayek? We'll see. The first one's pretty good. Karl Menger. David Lee, number 1. Which Austrian economist wrote The Road to Serfdom? Now, that's an easy one. It's actually doing pretty good here. These are good questions. Hayek, Menger, Mises, or Morgenstern? Hayek, 5, got it. Siggy. Which economist developed the Austrian theory of the business cycle in relation to bank credit? Damn, that's doing a good job. Which economist developed the Austrian theory of the business cycle in relation to bank credit? Austrian theory of the business cycle. Ludwig von Mises. Siggy's mom, St. Selma, B.H. Norris. Mines. Find the diamonds, avoid the bombs. Mines. Minesweeper. Which term in Austrian economics describes the role of the entrepreneur in discovering profit opportunities? That should be pretty easy. These questions are actually really good. I'm kind of shocked that the AI can do this. Siggy, dang, Siggy, what are you, a doctor of economics as well? Which concepts hold that value depends on the importance of the marginal unit to the decision maker? Marginal utility. Tough one. Yeah, Siggy, Byron Norris, number 2. He's sneaking up on you. Which Austrian economist is known for the capital theory work, Positive Theory of Capital? Ludwig Lochmann, Friedrich Wieser, Eugene von Bomberwerk, or Israel Kirzner. I actually got to take a class from Israel Kirzner. Lucky man. Which is the Austrian term for the idea that human action is purposive and goal-directed? Purposive, is that a word? I've never heard purposive. I've heard purposeful. Praxeology. Nobody got that one. Siggy and pork chop. Wow, it's actually getting close. It's getting pretty tight. Round 9. Which economist is closely linked with the slogan "Plan Chaos" in Critiques of Central Planning? I read that book. Okay, this quiz is shockingly good. Wow, look how close it is now. St. Selma burst out number 1. Oh, the elusive gift question. Will you receive the gift? Will you not receive the gift? It's 50-50. Could be poop. Could be a clown. Could be a star. St. Selma, Siggy's mom. First and second and third place are all, and even fourth and fifth are so close that it's anybody's game at this point. Which Austrian school economist wrote Competition and Entrepreneurship? These are Austrian Economics 201 level. Yep. Oh, yeah. The Austrian school view of prices in a market process. What is the Austrian school view of prices in a market process? Game over. Let's see who won. God, that was really close. Let's see. Pork chop. Damn, pork chop. You came out of nowhere there at the end. Congratulations. Rigged. Congratulations, pork chop. You won. $20 gift card to the Griff Shop. Send us a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Even Ratio snuck up there in second place. St. Selma, Siggy's mom. You guys were all so close. You're all winners today. Anybody who wants a $5 gift card to the Griff Shop, even if you played and didn't win, you can send us a text message. Tell us your screen name. 573-319-1586 is the text line. Pork chop gets a $20 one. Everybody else, you can have a $5 gift card. Congratulations. Thank you so much for all your support. Thank you to Red Pill Prof. Did he play? Were you Ratio over there, Red Pill Prof? Because I felt like you would have destroyed this one, but nevertheless, she persisted. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Thanks for unlocking all phases of bonus content. That means it was a phenomenal show. Thank you so much to everybody who is joining us live here today, even if you just clicked the like button. And if today was the first time you watched the show, we hope you come back tomorrow on the Wake Up America shows for Liberty Network. Bye, guys. In the town of Malden, England in 1727, a boy was born who would rise to become one of the most celebrated and later controversial generals of the American Revolution. His name was Horatio Gates. Gates began his military career in the British Army, serving during the War of the Austrian Succession and later in the French and Indian War in North America. He gained valuable experience but grew frustrated with the slow pace of promotion and what he saw as favoritism within the British military system. In 1769, he retired from the British Army and moved to Virginia, where he purchased a plantation and settled into civilian life. When the American Revolution broke out in 1775, Gates did not hesitate. Despite his British background, he strongly supported the Patriot cause. In June 1775, the Continental Congress commissioned him as a brigadier general and appointed him adjutant general of the Continental Army. His experience in the British Army made him valuable in organizing and training the inexperienced American forces. Gates served under George Washington during the New York campaign in 1776, but he soon grew ambitious for independent command. In 1777, Congress gave him command of the Northern Department, placing him in charge of defending against British General John Burgoyne's invasion from Canada. This would become the defining moment of Gates' career. As Burgoyne's army advanced south through New York, American forces under Gates took up strong defensive positions near Saratoga.
The first major clash occurred on September 19, 1777 at Freeman's Farm. Though Gates was in overall command, it was Brigadier General Benedict Arnold who played the most aggressive role in the fighting. The battle ended in a bloody stalemate, but it slowed Burgoyne's advance. Tensions between Gates and Arnold grew during the campaign. Gates tried to sideline Arnold, but when Burgoyne launched another attack on October 7th at Bemis Heights, Arnold ignored orders and led a furious counterattack that broke the British lines. Burgoyne's army was forced to retreat and was eventually surrounded. On October 17, 1777, Burgoyne surrendered his entire army of nearly 6,000 men to Horatio Gates. It was one of the greatest American victories of the war. News of the surrender at Saratoga convinced France to formally ally with the United States, which many historians consider the turning point of the entire revolution. Gates received most of the credit for the victory. He became a national hero and was celebrated throughout the colonies. Some members of Congress, unhappy with George Washington's string of defeats in 1776 and 1777, began to see Gates as a possible replacement for the commander-in-chief. This political maneuvering became known as the Conway Cabal, though Gates' exact involvement remains debated by historians. However, Gates's reputation would not last. In 1780, after a series of American disasters in the South, Congress gave Gates command of the Southern Department. He inherited a weak, poorly supplied army and was tasked with stopping the British advance through the Carolinas. On August 16, 1780, Gates led his army against a smaller British force commanded by Lord Cornwallis near Camden, South Carolina. The battle was a disaster from the start. Gates placed many of his inexperienced militia troops on the front line. When the British attacked, the militia broke and fled in panic. The Continental troops fought bravely but were overwhelmed. Gates himself fled the battlefield on horseback and did not stop riding until he reached Charlotte, North Carolina, over 60 miles away. The defeat at Camden was one of the worst American losses of the entire war. Gates lost nearly his entire army and his reputation was shattered. Many accused him of cowardice for abandoning his troops. Congress removed him from command, and he spent the next several years trying to clear his name. Though he was eventually cleared of any formal wrongdoing, Gates never regained his former influence. He returned to military service briefly in 1782, but played no major role in the final years of the war. After the Revolution, he retired to his estate in New York, where he lived until his death in 1806. Horatio Gates remains one of the most debated figures of the American Revolution. He achieved one of its greatest victories at Saratoga, but suffered one of its most humiliating defeats at Camden. While his contributions at Saratoga helped bring France into the war, his poor leadership at Camden nearly destroyed the American cause in the South. He was a capable administrator and organizer, but he lacked the steady nerve and battlefield instinct required of a great commander. His story serves as a reminder that in war, victory and defeat can come quickly, and that reputation can be built in one battle and destroyed in another. Horatio Gates, the general who won at Saratoga and lost everything at Camden.
'Tis the year of our Lord, 1801. President Trump Jefferson casts his gaze o'er the sovereign Potomac and beholds a most wretched spectacle upon the waters. From the cursed shores of Tripoli and the welfare coffers of distant Minnesota comes the brazen Captain Ilhan Omar, commanding her fleet of Barbary pirates. She demands her ransom, billions in reparations. Yet one instrument of fortitude suffices, a steaming chalice of Jeffersonian Java, bold and unapologetic from For Liberty shop. No more tribute to rogues, he thunders, and dispatches the Navy and Marines to smash Omar's fleet asunder. Trump Jefferson stands triumphant as Omar's plunder meets the end it deserved back in Minnesota. Jeffersonian Java, the coffee that gives true Americans the courage to refuse tribute and rebuke fraud. Procure yours at forlibertyshop.com and make